The strong man is the one who is able to intercept at will the communication between the senses and the mind. Napoleon Bonaparte. Most people think advantage is about speed. A fast car, a quick wit, a sudden opportunity. They believe that seizing the moment, reacting faster than the competition, is the key to success. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. The truth is that lasting advantage is rarely built in a sprint. It's crafted over time, through careful planning and the unwavering application of patience. Rushing leads to mistakes, missed opportunities, and ultimately failure. Those who prioritize instant gratification are constantly chasing the next shiny object, the next fleeting trend. They are reactive, driven by emotion and the fear of missing out. They are always a step behind, forever playing catch-up. True advantage comes to those who can resist the urge to react immediately. It belongs to those who understand that the most valuable opportunities often require careful cultivation and a willingness to wait. It's about seeing the board as a whole, anticipating future moves, and positioning yourself for long-term dominance. Think of a chess game. A novice player might impulsively sacrifice a pawn for a temporary advantage, only to find themselves exposed and vulnerable later in the game. A grandmaster, on the other hand, will often make seemingly passive moves, patiently developing their position and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They understand that the true advantage lies not in immediate gains, but in building a strategic foundation that will ultimately lead to victory. This requires discipline, foresight, and above all, patience. It's the ability to resist the temptation of instant gratification and focus on the long game. The world is full of distractions, of short-term gains that promise immediate rewards. Learning to filter out the noise and focus on your long-term goals is crucial for building a lasting advantage. This means making difficult choices, delaying gratification, and sometimes even sacrificing short-term gains for the sake of a greater future reward. It means understanding that true success is not about instant gratification, but about building a sustainable advantage that will endure over time. The psychology of patience is rooted in understanding the power of delayed gratification. It's a fundamental human trait, and its presence or absence can significantly impact a person's trajectory in life. Those who struggle with patience often fall prey to impulsive decisions, sacrificing long-term benefits for immediate, but ultimately fleeting, satisfaction. This stems from a neurological bias towards the present, a tendency to overvalue immediate rewards while discounting future consequences. Overcoming this bias requires conscious effort and the development of cognitive control. It's about training your mind to recognize the difference between what feels good now and what will be good for you in the long run. This involves developing the ability to visualize future outcomes, to anticipate the consequences of your actions, and to weigh the costs and benefits of different choices. It's about building a mental framework that prioritizes long-term goals over short-term impulses. Patience also demands a degree of emotional regulation. Impatience often arises from feelings of frustration, anxiety, or a perceived lack of control. These emotions can cloud judgment and lead to rash decisions. Learning to manage these emotions, to remain calm and focused under pressure, is essential for maintaining a patient and strategic mindset. This can involve practicing mindfulness, developing coping mechanisms for stress, and learning to reframe negative thoughts. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace and resilience, allowing you to navigate challenges with a steady hand and a clear mind. True advantage isn't just about strategy, it's also about emotional mastery. Furthermore, patience is intertwined with a deep understanding of risk and reward. Those who lack patience often underestimate the risks associated with impulsive actions and overestimate the rewards. This can lead to a cycle of chasing quick wins, only to find themselves constantly facing setbacks and disappointments. A patient individual, on the other hand, carefully assesses the risks and rewards of each decision, taking a calculated approach that minimizes potential downsides while maximizing long-term gains. This requires a degree of self-awareness, an honest evaluation of your own strengths and weaknesses, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes. It's about viewing setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for growth and improvement. Developing patience is not a passive process. It's an active pursuit that requires consistent effort and self-reflection. It's about consciously choosing to delay gratification, to resist impulsive urges, and to focus on the long-term consequences of your actions. This can involve setting realistic goals, breaking them down into smaller, manageable steps, and celebrating your progress along the way. It's about creating a system of accountability, surrounding yourself with supportive individuals, and constantly reminding yourself of your long-term vision. The journey towards patience is a journey towards self-mastery, a process of refining your mind and cultivating the mental fortitude necessary to achieve lasting success. It's about understanding that true advantage is not given, but earned through diligent effort, unwavering focus, and the unwavering commitment to playing the long game. Those who cultivate patience unlock a power far greater than instant gratification, a power that shapes not just their actions, but their very destiny. This approach is the cornerstone of strategic advantage, a perspective that separates those who react from those who proactively shape their future. Consider the case of a seemingly brash real estate developer. On the surface, they appear to be driven by impulsive decisions, aggressively pursuing every opportunity, seemingly without a second thought for risk. They leverage debt, build speculatively, and often clash with local regulations. To the untrained eye, they embody the antithesis of patience. However, beneath the surface often lies a calculated strategy, a long-term vision masked by a veneer of recklessness. This developer might deliberately cultivate a reputation for being unpredictable, fostering an environment of uncertainty that disarms competitors. They may intentionally overpay for properties in key locations, creating a temporary perception of market instability while quietly securing a dominant position. These moves, seemingly impulsive, are often meticulously planned, designed to achieve specific strategic objectives over an extended period. The short-term financial strain is a calculated cost, an investment in establishing long-term market control. The clashes with local regulations might be carefully orchestrated challenges, designed to test the boundaries of zoning laws and create precedents favorable to future projects. Even the heavy debt burden can be a strategic tool, leveraging the bank's investment to accelerate growth and limit the options of rivals. This approach requires an acute understanding of market dynamics, the ability to anticipate future trends, and a willingness to endure criticism and scrutiny in the short term. The developer understands that true wealth is not built overnight, but through the strategic acquisition and development of assets over time. Their apparent impatience is a carefully crafted illusion, a smokescreen concealing a methodical approach to long-term domination. They are willing to sacrifice short-term profits and endure public disapproval in order to achieve a lasting competitive advantage. They are playing a different game, one where the rules are less obvious and the rewards are far greater. Their focus is not on immediate gratification, but on building a lasting legacy, a real estate empire that will endure for generations. The ability to delay gratification, to withstand pressure, and to remain focused on the long-term goal is what ultimately separates them from the competition. They understand that true success is not measured in quarterly profits, but in the enduring value of their assets and the strength of their market position. This requires a level of patience that few possess, a willingness to endure hardship and uncertainty in pursuit of a grand vision. Their impatience is simply a tool, a means to an end, a way to disrupt the status quo and create opportunities for growth. The true measure of their success will be revealed not in the short-term fluctuations of the market, but in the long-term stability and profitability of their real estate empire. This calculated risk, this strategic impatience, is the hallmark of a true player. The trap lies in mistaking activity for progress. Many entrepreneurs, eager to prove themselves, fall into the trap of constantly launching new initiatives, chasing every shiny object that crosses their path. They see stagnation as a sign of failure, believing that constant movement is the key to success. This frenetic energy, however, is often misdirected, a desperate attempt to mask a lack of clear strategy. They spread their resources thin, diluting their efforts and achieving only superficial results. Each new venture becomes a distraction, pulling them further away from their core competencies and undermining their long-term goals. Their fear of missing out, their inability to say no, becomes their undoing. They are so busy reacting to the demands of the moment that they fail to anticipate future challenges. They become prisoners of their own ambition, trapped in a cycle of endless activity with no real direction. Their impatience blinds them to the importance of careful planning, methodical execution, and strategic allocation of resources. They are driven by the illusion of control, believing that their constant activity will somehow guarantee success. But in reality, they are simply exhausting themselves, burning out before they have a chance to achieve anything of lasting value. The weak, those lacking the fortitude for patience, are easily baited. They are lured by the promise of quick returns, drawn into schemes that offer immediate gratification. They fail to recognize the inherent risks involved, seduced by the prospect of instant wealth. Their judgment becomes clouded by greed, and they make rash decisions that ultimately lead to their downfall. They chase after fleeting opportunities, neglecting to build a solid foundation for their businesses. They are like gamblers, constantly chasing their losses, hoping for a lucky break that will never come. Their impatience becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading them down a path of failure and disappointment. The lure of the quick win is a powerful force, one that preys on the insecurities and vulnerabilities of the inexperienced. Those who lack the discipline to delay gratification are easily manipulated, becoming pawns in the games of others. They are so focused on the short-term reward that they fail to see the long-term consequences of their actions. They sacrifice their integrity, their reputation, and their future for the sake of immediate gain. Their impatience becomes their weakness, a fatal flaw that undermines their potential and condemns them to mediocrity. They prioritize instant profits over sustainable growth, sacrificing long-term stability for short-term gains. They fail to invest in their infrastructure, their employees, or their research and development, instead focusing on maximizing immediate returns. This short-sighted approach ultimately weakens their competitive position, leaving them vulnerable to disruption and obsolescence. They are so focused on the present that they fail to anticipate the future, leaving themselves exposed to unforeseen challenges and opportunities. Their impatience becomes a strategic disadvantage, limiting their ability to adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing environment. They are reactive rather than proactive, constantly playing catch-up to their competitors. They lack the vision and the foresight to anticipate future trends, leaving them vulnerable to disruption and ultimately failure. Advantage requires patience, a virtue often mistaken for weakness. To patiently construct a lasting advantage is to defy the impulsive nature that governs so many. The desire for instant gratification is a powerful distraction, a siren song that lures individuals away from the path of sustained success. It is a fundamental test of character, separating those who are capable of strategic thought from those who are driven by fleeting desires. Impatience breeds rash decisions, impulsive actions that often undermine long-term goals. It clouds judgment, preventing individuals from seeing the bigger picture and anticipating potential consequences. A calculated approach, on the other hand, allows for careful consideration, strategic planning, and the deliberate execution of a well-defined strategy. It is the antithesis of reactive behavior, empowering individuals to shape their own destiny rather than being swept along by the whims of circumstance. Patience is not merely a passive virtue, it is an active and deliberate choice. It requires a conscious effort to resist the temptation of immediate gratification and to focus on the long-term objective. It involves cultivating a mindset of delayed gratification, understanding that true success is often the result of sustained effort over time. It is about recognizing that setbacks are inevitable and that perseverance is essential for overcoming obstacles. Patience is the ability to weather the storms of adversity, to maintain focus and determination in the face of challenges. It is the foundation upon which lasting achievements are built. The ability to delay gratification is a hallmark of successful individuals in all fields. Whether it is in business, sports, or personal relationships, those who are able to resist the temptation of immediate pleasure are more likely to achieve their goals. They understand that success is not a sprint, but a marathon. It requires a long-term perspective, a commitment to continuous improvement, and the willingness to make sacrifices along the way. They are able to see beyond the immediate challenges and focus on the ultimate prize. Strategic patience involves understanding the dynamics of power and influence. It is about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to push forward and when to retreat. It requires a keen sense of observation, the ability to read the signals of the environment, and the discipline to control one's impulses. Strategic patience is not about passivity. It is about calculated action, timed for maximum impact. It is about waiting for the opportune moment, the precise alignment of circumstances that will allow for decisive action. It is the art of waiting to strike. In the game of strategy, patience is a weapon, a tool used to outmaneuver opponents and gain a decisive advantage. It is about creating a sense of false security, lulling opponents into a state of complacency before launching a well-timed attack. It is about controlling the tempo of the game, dictating the terms of engagement, and forcing opponents to react to one's own moves. Strategic patience is the ability to control the narrative, to shape the perception of reality, and to influence the decisions of others. Those who lack patience are easily manipulated, their eagerness exploited by those who are willing to wait. They become predictable, their actions easily anticipated, their vulnerabilities exposed. They are like moths drawn to a flame, their desire for immediate gratification blinding them to the dangers that lie ahead. Strategic players, on the other hand, are masters of disguise, their intentions concealed beneath a veneer of calm and composure. They are able to play the long game, patiently constructing their advantage, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Patience allows for careful planning, meticulous execution, and the avoidance of costly mistakes. It provides the time to gather information, analyze the situation, and develop a comprehensive strategy. It allows for the identification of potential weaknesses and the implementation of countermeasures to mitigate risk. It is the foundation upon which sound decisions are made. The impatient, driven by the need for immediate results, often overlook critical details, rushing into situations without proper preparation. They are prone to errors in judgment, miscalculations that can have devastating consequences. Their impatience becomes their undoing. Advantage requires patience because true advantage is rarely immediate. It is cultivated, nurtured, and strategically deployed over time. Think of a chess player meticulously planning several moves in advance, sacrificing a pawn to gain a positional advantage that will ultimately lead to checkmate. This is the essence of strategic patience. It is about seeing beyond the immediate, understanding the long-term implications of every action, and making calculated decisions that will maximize the chances of success. It is the difference between a short-sighted gamble and a carefully orchestrated victory. A calculated advantage compounds over time, accelerating towards a predetermined goal with the inevitability of time itself. The history of empires is a testament to this very principle. Consider the Roman Empire, a civilization that did not conquer the world overnight. Its rise to dominance was a centuries-long process of strategic expansion, calculated assimilation, and unwavering patience. They understood that true power was not simply about military might, but also about infrastructure, law, and governance. They meticulously built roads to connect their territories, fostering trade and communication. They codified laws that ensured stability and order. They granted citizenship to conquered peoples, integrating them into the empire and securing their loyalty. This patient, methodical approach allowed them to build a vast and enduring empire that shaped the course of Western civilization. Their advantage was not born from impulsive aggression, but from a considered, long-term strategy of incremental gains and consolidated power. Contrast this with empires built on fleeting moments of conquest and fueled by unchecked ambition. These empires, often characterized by rapid expansion and brutal subjugation, lacked the patience to establish solid foundations. They were prone to internal strife, rebellion, and ultimately, collapse. Their reliance on immediate gratification and disregard for long-term consequences proved to be their downfall. They failed to understand that true power lies not in the swiftness of conquest, but in the ability to maintain and consolidate control over time. Military campaigns, too, often hinge on the strategic application of patience. A general who rushes into battle without proper reconnaissance or planning is likely to suffer a costly defeat. The wise commander, on the other hand, takes the time to gather intelligence, analyze the terrain, and assess the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. They carefully position their troops, establish supply lines, and develop contingency plans. They may even delay the attack, waiting for the opportune moment when the enemy is vulnerable or overextended. This patience allows them to maximize their chances of success and minimize their losses. Consider the strategy of attrition, a tactic often employed when facing a stronger or better-equipped opponent. This strategy involves gradually weakening the enemy through a series of small-scale engagements, ambushes, and harassment operations. It requires immense patience and discipline, as progress is often slow and incremental. However, over time, the cumulative effect of these actions can be devastating, eroding the enemy's morale, depleting their resources, and ultimately forcing them to concede defeat. This methodical wearing down of an opponent demands a level of patience and focus that few possess. The element of surprise, a critical component of many successful military campaigns, also relies on patience. Waiting for the perfect moment to strike, when the enemy is least expecting it, can often be more effective than launching a frontal assault. This requires the ability to remain hidden, undetected, and disciplined for extended periods, resisting the urge to prematurely reveal one's position. The payoff for such patience can be immense, shattering the enemy's defenses and paving the way for a swift victory. The value lies in the controlled expenditure of force at the most opportune moment. The concept of strategic retreat, often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, is in reality a powerful demonstration of patience. A commander who recognizes that their forces are facing overwhelming odds may choose to withdraw, sacrificing territory in order to preserve their troops and resources. This allows them to regroup, re-equip, and plan a counteroffensive at a later time, when the conditions are more favorable. This willingness to cede ground in the short term, for the sake of long-term strategic advantage, is a hallmark of intelligent leadership. Retreat is simply a different form of maneuvering, a strategic pause before a renewed commitment to the field of battle. The siege, a protracted military operation in which an army surrounds a fortified city or position, is perhaps the ultimate test of patience. Sieges can last for months, even years, requiring the besieging army to maintain a constant state of vigilance, cut off the enemy's supply lines, and gradually weaken their defenses through bombardment and attrition. The defending forces, in turn, must endure hardship, rationing, and the constant threat of attack. The outcome of a siege often depends on which side is able to persevere the longest, demonstrating the greater degree of patience and resolve. It is a battle of wills, a war of endurance, and a testament to the power of strategic patience. The waiting game is often more decisive than any single act of aggression. The application of patience extends far beyond the battlefield, permeating every aspect of strategic endeavor. Consider the entrepreneur who invests years in developing a revolutionary technology, facing setbacks and market fluctuations along the way. Their unwavering commitment to a long-term vision, their refusal to be discouraged by short-term failures, is a testament to the power of patience. They understand that building something truly significant requires time, dedication, and the ability to weather the storms. The overnight success is a myth. True innovation is cultivated over years, sometimes decades, of persistent effort. The patient entrepreneur understands this fundamental truth and uses it to their advantage, outlasting competitors who seek immediate gratification. This approach applies just as convincingly to the world of scientific discovery. Breakthroughs often emerge not from sudden inspiration, but from painstaking research, repeated experiments, and the gradual accumulation of knowledge. Scientists dedicate years to unraveling the mysteries of the universe, driven by a deep-seated curiosity and an unwavering belief in the power of patient inquiry. They are willing to accept failure as a necessary part of the process, recognizing that each setback brings them closer to a breakthrough. The scientific method itself is predicated on patience, requiring meticulous observation, rigorous testing, and the willingness to revise hypotheses in the face of new evidence. The pursuit of knowledge is a marathon, not a sprint, and only those who possess the patience to persevere will ultimately reach the finish line. In the realm of financial markets, patience is equally paramount. Investors who succumb to impulsive trading, driven by fear or greed, are often destined to lose money. The wise investor, on the other hand, takes a long-term perspective, carefully analyzing market trends, diversifying their portfolio, and remaining disciplined in the face of volatility. They understand that market fluctuations are inevitable, and that trying to time the market is a fool's errand. Instead, they focus on building a solid foundation, patiently accumulating assets, and allowing the power of compounding to work its magic. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time, is a prime example of the power of patient investing. His strategy is based on identifying undervalued companies, holding them for the long term, and allowing their intrinsic value to appreciate over time. This approach requires discipline, fortitude, and the willingness to ignore short-term market noise. His unparalleled success is a testament to the enduring value of patience in the financial world. It's the antithesis of the get-rich-quick scheme. Slow, deliberate, persistent is the only true path to financial security. The psychology of patience is rooted in the ability to delay gratification, to resist the urge for immediate rewards in favor of long-term goals. This requires a degree of self-control, emotional regulation, and a clear understanding of one's priorities. Individuals who lack patience are often impulsive, easily frustrated, and prone to making rash decisions. They may struggle to maintain focus, to persevere in the face of adversity, and to build meaningful relationships. In contrast, those who possess a high degree of patience are more likely to be resilient, adaptable, and successful in all aspects of their lives. They are able to manage their emotions, to think strategically, and to make decisions that are aligned with their long-term goals. They understand that success is not a destination but a journey, and that patience is the key to navigating the inevitable challenges along the way. Cultivating patience is not about passively waiting for things to happen. It is about actively working towards one's goals while remaining calm, focused, and adaptable. It is about embracing the process, learning from setbacks, and never losing sight of the ultimate objective. True patience is not weakness. It is a powerful force that can overcome any obstacle. Strategic patience can also be used as a tool to manipulate one's opponents. By deliberately delaying action, one can create uncertainty, sow discord, and force the other side to make mistakes. This is particularly effective in negotiations, where a willingness to walk away from the table can give one a significant advantage. The party that is most willing to wait, to endure discomfort, and to resist pressure is often the one that ultimately prevails. This principle applies equally to diplomatic relations, where a patient approach can be used to diffuse tensions, build trust, and achieve mutually beneficial outcomes. The art of diplomacy lies in the ability to listen, to understand, and to find common ground, all of which require a considerable degree of patience. A rushed or aggressive approach is often counterproductive, leading to misunderstandings, mistrust, and ultimately, failure. The long game requires a willingness to concede minor points in the short term in order to achieve larger strategic objectives in the long run. It demands the capacity to see beyond the immediate crisis, to anticipate future challenges, and to adapt one's strategy accordingly. In essence, advantage requires patience because it allows for a more comprehensive assessment of the situation, a more nuanced understanding of the opponent's intentions, and a more deliberate execution of one's own strategy. It enables one to avoid impulsive reactions, to resist short-term temptations, and to focus on long-term goals. It fosters resilience, adaptability, and the ability to persevere in the face of adversity. Patience is not merely a virtue, it is a strategic asset, a competitive advantage, and a prerequisite for achieving lasting success. It is the bedrock upon which all great achievements are built. The impatient react to every stimulus, every flickering light. The patient observe the pattern, the system that creates the lights, and manipulate the source. Consider the strategic patience exhibited by China in its economic rise. For decades, China focused on internal development, on building infrastructure, on educating its populace, and on attracting foreign investment. They resisted the urge to immediately challenge the existing global order, instead choosing to patiently accumulate economic power. This calculated approach allowed them to become a major economic force on the world stage, capable of influencing global trade, investment, and development. Had they rushed into asserting dominance, they would have likely faced resistance from established powers, potentially hindering their long-term growth. Instead, they played the long game, leveraging their manufacturing capabilities, their vast labor force, and their commitment to infrastructure development to steadily increase their influence. This patience was not simply a passive waiting game, but an active strategy involving careful planning, calculated risks, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. They understood that true power is not simply about military might or political posturing, but about economic strength, technological innovation, and the ability to shape the global narrative. Their deliberate, patient approach stands in stark contrast to more impulsive or aggressive strategies, highlighting the power of strategic thinking and long-term planning. They understood the interconnectedness of the global economy, the importance of building relationships, and the need to cultivate trust with their partners. This required a willingness to compromise, to listen to different perspectives, and to find mutually beneficial solutions. Their focus was not on immediate gains, but on building a sustainable and resilient economic system that could withstand external shocks and adapt to future challenges. The Chinese example demonstrates that patience is not about inaction, but about strategic action taken over a longer time frame. It is about understanding the underlying forces at play, anticipating future trends, and positioning oneself to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. It is about resisting the temptation to be swayed by short-term pressures and staying focused on long-term goals. This requires a high degree of discipline, a clear sense of purpose, and a willingness to invest in the future. It is a testament to the power of strategic thinking and the importance of patience in achieving lasting success. The pursuit of sustainable growth demands that kind of patience. The quick buck is never truly quick. The seeds of its own destruction are sown into its rapid expansion. China understood this and, in many ways, continues to understand it, though the temptation to flex is ever present on the world stage. The trap lies in the need for instant gratification, the inability to delay reward. It's a fundamental flaw in human psychology, exploited time and again by those who understand its power. This impatience manifests in a multitude of ways, from reckless investments driven by the fear of missing out, to impulsive decisions in negotiations that sacrifice long-term gain for immediate relief. The weak, those who lack the discipline to cultivate patience, are easily manipulated, lured into traps set by those who can see beyond the immediate moment. They are the gamblers who chase losses, doubling down in a desperate attempt to recoup their initial stake, only to find themselves deeper in debt. They are the bargain hunters who buy cheap imitations, sacrificing quality and durability for a fleeting sense of savings, only to replace the item again and again. They are the politicians who promise quick fixes, pandering to the immediate desires of the electorate, only to leave behind a legacy of debt and disillusionment. Each of these failures stems from the same source: an inability to recognize the power of compounding, the exponential growth that comes from consistent effort over time. Consider the entrepreneur who launches a business with the sole aim of getting rich quickly. They cut corners, prioritize profits over customer service, and engage in aggressive marketing tactics that alienate potential clients. They might experience a brief period of success, a flash in the pan fueled by hype and unsustainable practices, but ultimately, their lack of patience undermines their long-term viability. Customers become disillusioned, competitors emerge with superior products and services, and the business collapses under the weight of its own short-sightedness. In contrast, the patient entrepreneur focuses on building a sustainable business, one that is built on a foundation of quality, trust, and customer loyalty. They understand that success is a marathon, not a sprint, and that it requires consistent effort, a willingness to adapt to changing market conditions, and a commitment to continuous improvement. They are willing to sacrifice short-term profits for long-term growth, understanding that a loyal customer base is the most valuable asset a business can possess. This approach demands patience, a willingness to invest in the future, and a belief in the power of compounding. The same principle applies to personal relationships. The impatient individual demands instant gratification, seeking validation and affection from others without investing the time and effort required to build genuine connection. They might jump from relationship to relationship, chasing the initial rush of infatuation, only to find themselves perpetually disappointed and alone. They lack the patience to navigate the inevitable challenges and conflicts that arise in any relationship, preferring to abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. In contrast, the patient individual understands that strong relationships are built on a foundation of trust, respect, and mutual understanding. They are willing to invest the time and effort required to cultivate these qualities, to listen to their partner's needs, to communicate openly and honestly, and to work through disagreements constructively. They understand that relationships are a long-term investment, requiring patience, commitment, and a willingness to compromise. Even in the realm of personal development, patience is essential. The impatient individual wants to achieve their goals overnight, seeking shortcuts and quick fixes that promise instant results. They might try a fad diet, attend a motivational seminar, or purchase a self-help program, only to find themselves back where they started a few weeks later. They lack the patience to commit to a long-term plan, to develop consistent habits, and to overcome the inevitable setbacks that arise along the way. In contrast, the patient individual understands that personal growth is a gradual process, requiring consistent effort, self-discipline, and a willingness to learn from their mistakes. They focus on building good habits, setting realistic goals, and celebrating small victories along the way. They understand that setbacks are inevitable, but they view them as opportunities for growth and learning. They are patient with themselves, recognizing that progress takes time and that setbacks are a natural part of the process. The impatience that defines the weak is a vulnerability, a strategic weakness that can be exploited. It blinds them to the long-term consequences of their actions, leading them to make impulsive decisions that ultimately undermine their own interests. It makes them susceptible to manipulation, easily lured into traps set by those who can see beyond the immediate moment. This is why patience is not merely a virtue, but a strategic advantage. It allows you to see beyond the immediate, to anticipate future trends, and to position yourself to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. It allows you to resist the temptation to be swayed by short-term pressures and to stay focused on your long-term goals. It requires discipline, a clear sense of purpose, and a willingness to invest in the future. It is a testament to the power of strategic thinking and the importance of patience in achieving lasting success. Therefore, cultivate patience. It is the shield against the traps laid for the impulsive. The restless spirit, driven by a need for instant gratification, is a predictable entity. Its desires are transparent, its impulses easily anticipated. This lack of self-control broadcasts its intentions, making it a simple target for those who operate on a different plane. The patient strategist, in contrast, moves with deliberate purpose, concealing their true objectives until the opportune moment. They understand that the world is a game of chess, not a sprint, and that victory is often achieved not through brute force, but through careful planning and calculated execution. The impatience of others becomes a tool, a weapon to be wielded against them. Their eagerness can be exploited, their frustrations amplified, their errors capitalized upon. The grandmaster knows that a single misstep born of impatience can unravel years of careful planning. The ability to delay gratification, to resist the urge for immediate reward, is a sign of mental fortitude, a hallmark of the strategic mind. It allows you to see beyond the surface, to understand the underlying dynamics at play, and to anticipate the consequences of your actions. This is not to say that you should never take risks, but that those risks should be calculated, based on a clear understanding of the potential rewards and the associated costs. Impatience leads to reckless gambles, born of desperation rather than strategic insight. The patient strategist, however, approaches risk with cold calculation, weighing the odds and acting only when the potential payoff justifies the investment. Patience allows you to observe, to analyze, to adapt. While others are rushing headlong into the fray, blinded by their own desires, you can stand back, assess the situation, and identify the weaknesses in their approach. You can anticipate their moves, exploit their vulnerabilities, and ultimately outmaneuver them with minimal effort. This is the essence of strategic thinking, to use your opponent's own weaknesses against them, to turn their impatience into your advantage. This requires a certain detachment, an ability to remain calm and collected even in the face of chaos. It requires a willingness to accept setbacks, to learn from your mistakes, and to continue moving forward, one calculated step at a time. True advantage is not born of speed or aggression, but of foresight and control. It is the ability to see the bigger picture, to understand the interconnectedness of events, and to anticipate the long-term consequences of your actions. It is the patience to wait for the right moment, to strike with precision and decisive force, and to achieve your goals with minimal risk. The world rewards those who can think strategically, who can plan for the future, and who can resist the temptation to act impulsively. It punishes those who are driven by their emotions, who are easily manipulated, and who lack the discipline to stay focused on their long-term objectives. Consider the farmer who plants a seed and waits patiently for it to sprout. He does not dig up the seed every day to check on its progress. He understands that growth takes time, that it requires careful nurturing and a willingness to wait. He trusts in the process, knowing that if he provides the right conditions, the seed will eventually bear fruit. This is the same approach that the strategic thinker takes to all aspects of life. They understand that success is not an overnight phenomenon, but a gradual process that requires consistent effort, unwavering dedication, and above all, patience. The impatient are slaves to their own desires, constantly chasing after fleeting pleasures and short-term gains. They are easily distracted, easily manipulated, and ultimately, easily defeated. The patient, on the other hand, are masters of their own destiny, capable of controlling their impulses, focusing their energy, and achieving their goals with unwavering determination. They understand that true power comes not from force, but from control. Control of oneself, control